Fraser's here. Only the light is on. We are?
We are all set.
Okay. This is the August 13th, 2026 meeting of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. My name is Rick Hartwig and I am chair. Let's do a roll call. Alan Holland. Here. Chris Donaldson.
Here.
Mauricio Flores.
Here.
Marilyn Harbor.
Here.
Sigrid Olson.
Here.
Delight Walker. Fraser Wick.
Here.
All right. We need to approve the minutes from 2 months, June the 11th and July the 22nd. Are there any additions, subtractions, deletions, amendments?
Didn't we have some revisions on the July 22nd minutes?
Yeah, the draft minutes where we reshared, we neglected to identify a member who was present. So now it's accurate, that was brought to our attention.
Yeah,
that we
they
revised
said
it.
another
That's
one.
revised.
Yeah, it's revised, that might be a good clarification, as revised.
So I therefore would move to accept this, publish the minutes of June 11th and June 22nd for Sprout.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Chris? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are approved. I don't see any public comment. All right. The first, board item.
I changed my mind and I did put my name on there, so could I have a 2 minute?
Oh, 3 minutes. You're on the clock.
I'll be faster than that. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Councilor Varney. Hello, I'm Christine Shute. I'm with the Salem, South Central Association of Neighbors, colloquially referred to as SCAN. I just wanted to say that SCAN, on behalf of SCAN's Parks and Gardens Group, I sent an email to Rob Romanak and to Joe McNally, who works in Bush Park, complaining about the condition of the Wall Street pedestrian bridge. And I knew that they weren't the right people to send the email to, because I knew that Parks planning didn't have very much to do with bridge repair. But lo and behold, almost immediately, something magical happened and the bridge was repaired and now it looks wonderful. And so whatever role Rob or Joe played in that repair, we're very, very grateful to, and thank you.
All right. Thank you, Christine.
Nice comment.
Okay.
Explanation.
Who's responsible, Rob?
Oh, park operations, completely responsible for that work. I simply forwarded on to information.
Who's responsible?
Thank you, Rob and Jennifer.
I would, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna let in member Delight.
Oh, okay. The light is.
Well done.
Good delight.
Okay.
Such a delight.
All right. I am going to proceed with the first board item, park tour debrief, and ask you if you want to share any observations, takeaways, areas for further consideration. I'm going to start. Okay. I think it's great. It's great for us in many different ways. It's great for us to be there and see things and explanations where we can have our questions asked and all that. I think it'd be great if we could do it more than once a year. Secondly, I think that, as I said, getting out and looking, going to the parks and looking at them is really important for us as board members. I would encourage you, maybe, I hate to put more work on Rob, but if there is an alert, this is happening at this particular park, and you may be able on your own to go and check it out and see what's going on. I would also encourage you to especially do that for parks that are in your neighborhood associations that you have. And I know Marilyn, you're gonna talk about, how, since you're a new member, what neighborhood associations you might be involved with. And also, I would like, and I know that some of us have done this all along, secret, I know, have been out on our own and visited a lot of parks. I would hope in terms of your relationship with your neighborhood associations that it would be, hopefully be more than just one time where you just tell them about the spiff and then you ignore them till the next year. I think it's important to be a liaison to them, just like Counselor Varney is a liaison to us. So that you know, the neighborhood associations know that we are listening to them and their concerns. And we you know, can then pass them on or help with them in those areas. So that's my takeaway on the park tour. Any other observations?
Well, I have something to add. So after we went to Fairview Park, I went back with my grandson and I measured the trees. I just would love to do that, you know that. And it was great. We went down and we measured about 10 trees, except 2 of them were surrounded by blackberries. I didn't get down there, but well, we were what I'm saying is I'll have to wear jeans. But it was so neat. Guess how old the trees are? They're running between 340 and 360 years old, the big ones.
Wow.
And there's 2 big ones surrounded by blackberries that may surpass that. There's also another one where we park kind of off to the side. It's kind of surrounded by houses. That's 360 to 60 years old. Then I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the mother lode of old growth trees. I went over to Brian Johnson Park, and that has really got some also super old trees. One of them we measured at 360, the other one. They're all running between 300 and 360 years old. Okay, then I went online. I'm almost done with my old growth tree spiel. I thought, okay, I've been identifying these old growth trees in pockets throughout the city. Also, Fairmont Park has some as you go down further. They've got a couple big firs. And then, of course, ChatGPT, which AI really does help you with some of this. But we call AI now Zeb after Zebulon Walton and the Waltons. He knew everything. Okay, so we now call that. I went online and I pulled all these surveys and they said, yes, you are noticing this in Salem on these ridges. Those old growth trees were actually preserved because it wasn't really productive land to plant orchards. So all of a sudden, throughout the city, even up near behind Bellcrest, and we're able to just by visual sight identify these absolute giants that are living in our city that we pass by every day. I mean, I just think this is remarkable because the one in Bush Park that sits alone, we all drive by it on Mission Street, is about 320. So just measuring the old growth trees in that park and knowing that, you know, those parks, especially Fairview, will be developed. I think that's just thrilling. I mean, I think it's thrilling that they remain there and they've been preserved and they weren't cut down and they'll be there for generations to come. So that's my spiel. But I love going back to Fairview. We walk the whole park and that's going to be a beautiful plan and a beautiful park. Okay.
Right. Anyone else have comments to make on the tour? Chris?
Yeah, again, agree with the tour is great. Thank you for facilitating that and taking us around, even, driving us around in a nice air conditioned van on a hot day. It felt maybe just a little bit rushed or that we had a lot packed in. So it was a great tour, but I felt like we were like boom, boom, boom. I don't know how easy it would be for the city to find a little bit more time or even just build into the agenda, because I felt we were rushed and we still came back, after the allotted time. It was kind of outlined. So I think maybe for the next one, just being a little bit more realistic with 20 minutes per park. Felt like we were getting out talking and already at 30 minutes by the time we got back in the vehicle.
Yes, I would have loved to have gone to more parks, but it's a time problem more than anything. Maybe go to 3 parks, but you can give us information on other parks that we can go on our own. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of felt the same way.
Yeah, to the point, maybe less parks, more in depth and like pick a couple and spend some time on it and not feel so beholden to like, all right, we gotta get to the next one, I gotta get to the next one. But yeah, just time management, feels like maybe something to think about for the next tour.
Yeah, Marilyn?
I thought it was great to be able to tour those places and also to get information about the development and how that was transposed or transgressing, or how it was developed.
Hmm.
It was very beneficial to me as a new member for sure. So if we do it again, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I just credit to the staff on the thought that went into selecting those parks. And I think it was very strategic in the stages of what's going on in those parks. Got a little bit of taste of fully undeveloped lawn, plot of land, park with renovations in progress. And one that was, kind of in progress, maybe on the whole, we didn't see a lot of activity there, but I think it was still in progress as well. But maybe in the earlier stages, McKay Park referring to. So it was really cool to see that. So as far as, any future consideration of parks, I think that was well thought out, but maybe just a park too that maybe doesn't really necessarily have plans, that maybe there's some potential there just to visualize an existing park as it is. I think we did that at McKay before, but there was already plans to demolish that park that had concrete and all. But something that is like a fresh start, nobody's considered this in an area that isn't, in the Northeast, we always talk about that, on the north side, that there's not a lot that gets invested into there, so just hitting, one of those parks, again, you guys put a lot of thought into it, so I'm sure that will be taken into account. But other than that, I think it was well thought out what parks were selected to view at different stages.
When I first got on the board and Alan first got on the board, we went and visited every park in the city.
Love this. Yeah.
It took us,
Please.
yeah, we just kind of did a section of the city one week and just in the morning. One thing we found it is we'd run into staff, the park staff and they were all extraordinarily helpful and congenial and didn't run into one curmudgeon at all. And it was, they were able to answer some questions, not in the depth that we had on our tour, but yeah, I would encourage you to get out there as best you can. And Rob, if you want to, you could send out an alert about this is happening there if you want to go look, and I think that would be great. Where is he?
That got me on another thought that I think often with these tours, the last 2 years that I've been a part of them, we talk a lot about improvements and developments. I personally, maybe might be the only one, but I think it is valuable to understand what the operation team has to maintain and do, so we can have some knowledge and awareness of what it takes to maintain these parks. So a park with kind of a diverse, maintenance approach where there's lots of field mows or, sports fields, playgrounds, what have you. I think awareness of what our operation team, maintenance team kind of faces as far as challenges and all that, I think there might be some value for us as a board to see that end of things as well.
I really like that idea. Yeah, the stuff that you take for granted that's out there that
Yeah,
in order to have a park just look like a park, that's a ton of work. That's not construction, but yeah, that's a great idea.
yeah, I know that Minnow Brown has 1,200 acres, which is far larger than Central Park in New York. And they have one person. One person. Now he can call in people to mow. Is it Jason? Yeah, okay. But they call in people to mow, they produce special things, but that's a lot of, we really have 40 park workers and
Well, 41 is our total staff. That's administrative staff. That's everybody. That's not folks in parks. We have about around more 29, 30 that are out.
okay, and we have almost that in terms of volunteer hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody out there that would be listening, volunteer, please. Alan,
On the business of the tours, I think that it's staff should be commended for the work put in to do that. It's a very important, valuable thing for the board to be in touch with the operations as they are ongoing. And it's also an important thing that we're able to appreciate more, I think, what the complexity and the intricacies are of planning these things. There's a lot of difficulties, a lot of coordination between agencies and jurisdictions when things have to get into place. And I've not always been aware that is the requirement, and it helps us understand why things may seem to move more slowly than we like at times. It's well done, well planning, important thing to do. Thank you.
Hey, anything final to say? All right, thank you all very much, and thank you, Rob, and Dan, and everybody, all that you did there. Next, preparation for the 2026 National Park to Walk to a Park Observance. Rob.
So starting several years ago, it was I guess it was Chair Norris. I don't recall if it was Chair McDonald or Chair Norris. Previous members had this dialogue with the mayor at the time, and the mayor, Chris Hoy, former mayor, signed on to Trust for Public Lands commitment to make your community be a community where everyone can walk to a park in 10 minutes. And in Salem, 10 minutes is really that's a proxy for a half-mile walk. So it's really about highlighting that as a city, we have a focus on developing a network of neighborhood parks that provide access to everyone in walking distance. And not everyone has it. That is not true today. It's just not a goal. And so as part of that, with that came this idea that the city would participate in this annual observance of National Walk to a Park Day to highlight that very issue. The first year we did it, the Trust of Public Lands actually came down and kind of hosted an event with us. And then since then, we've kind of been doing it on our own. A couple of years we've done this. The city has worked with SPRAB and several city elected officials and neighborhood association people. And we've organized a walk with students from a local school to a park. And again, this is really a promotional event. We've done it like last year, for example, we did the day before National Walk to Park Day, so the city could then promote it on social media, encourage everyone in the city to then, on the actual day, plan a trip for themselves to take their family or go for a walk to their local park. And so that is part of the SPRAB's work plan, is to focus on assisting the city with an event this year. However, I want to interject an idea. We do have this pretty big milestone at Riverfront Park coming up, where the playground should be opening up. The timing of October 10th, which is the day of this event, is really close to when that playground will have just opened, hopefully. So I would just maybe the idea would be that SPRAB could help us plan a community event to celebrate the playground, and we could do a component, just like, I'm just gonna throw out an idea, but like maybe several members could walk from Wallace Marine Park to the event. And then again, as a way to highlight, then our social media team could take that and then promote it. To say, hey, look, Salem, we had a great party in the park today. We welcome the new playground. Go out and go to your local park the next day, something like that. That's an idea. I think what I would really like today is to have some discussion as a board, get some ideas. And if the board members wanted designate a member that we could work with specifically as we wanted to plan an event, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I have some ideas on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair.
We brainstorm.
Yeah,
Are you brainstorming right now? Okay. So I've been thinking about this. I'll tell you why. Because a few years ago when I was in Japan, they had a problem, everyone in their cities not visiting parks. And so in the 1970s, this guy coined this term called Shirin-roku, which means forest bathing. That's what it means. And it was the most amazing slogan. It really did change everyone's behaviors. And it's very famous for doing that. Got people out in the parks. So I'm worried about teens in particular, because I obviously teach teenagers. I'm wondering, we shouldn't have the old folks. Why don't we get some kids in the school doing it? Why don't we get some teenagers doing that? Wait, I've got a great slogan. How about, I got picked up some slogans on this. How about this? Less screen time, more green time. That would be great. That would get everyone thinking,
Yeah.
okay? Like you could walk to a park and then underneath it have less screen time, more green time, right? And instead of, I mean, we could have mixed generation. I think you need to have a generational block. Maybe a kid on a bike, a mom in a stroller, you know, coming from different places, meeting at the bridge and then going across. And I don't think that would be really hard to recruit. The schools, kids would love to do that. Maybe get a group of 5, a multi-generational group, and then have them all converge on the park.
Yeah,
As part of your promo.
parking lot nearest the red.
Rob, I think you found the member to work.
But I got a lot on my plate because that's the beginning of the year. But anyway, I think that's an idea. And I know that I could get some teenagers. I could commit to that. Because I'm raising them. I'm raising kids, so yeah, I could at least get one kid.
Is the 10th a Saturday?
The 10th is a Saturday. Realistically, I think we're in a position, that would not be on the 10th. It would potentially be on the 9th or something like that.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll also flag that our placer data tells us that Fridays are on average around the year are the busiest day of the week at Riverfront Park. So it'd be a great day to have an event at Riverfront Park.
Go on a walk with the group from Wallace to Riverfront.
Also do from Minto as well.
Yeah,
You could do
Minto,
from
yeah.
Wallace and then Minto
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Minto.
Right, yeah.
Everybody walk their dogs from the dog park. On a leash,
That's a thought.
on a leash. Well, I want the ranger out there. Okay.
This sounds a little bit like the walk in the park day that Salem
Oh,
Parks Foundation Board
I was gonna say,
every spring. And so I think it's a great idea if we can help in any way. Great.
yeah, the foundation also should be involved in this, because this is up
We
there.
definitely invite them. I would go, if it sounds good, we'll try to have our internal team at the city have a meeting that we'll invite you to, a brainstorming meeting, and then maybe you could report back to the board next month.
Are you referring to me?
Yeah, I'm referring to. Yeah, if you grew up with one meeting, that would
Okay,
be-
so that'll
maybe
be,
a virtual meeting.
okay, great,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Let me know about it when there too. I'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because the only thing I'd add is, you mentioned Riverfront Park, and that's like a really big focal point right now as far as social media and sharing, improvements. There's also, I guess I feel like a whole list of other improvements and like so many things that the city has invested in through various bond projects, like, under the umbrella with Riverfront, just maybe mentioning all the various things out there. So, if it's about walk to your local park, highlighting, this new swing set, this investment here, the fields at McKay, there's all these different things that, I feel like folks may or may not be aware of, that just kind of drawing attention to all the investments that we've made in parks and recreation. And that if you haven't been to your local park since this has been installed or this has been updated, this is an opportunity just to highlight the work that the city has done.
most of our parks are neighborhood parks
Yeah.
and close to elementary schools and middle schools. And the one thing I remember is that when the walk to the park went from Liberty Grade School to
Wendy Kroger.
Wendy Kroger Park. And I went from, I don't live far from there, so I actually brought my dog with me. There were kids are saying, I never knew this park was here.
Yeah, I know. No, I know. I mean,
And that's a wonderful little neighborhood park.
They
It
are.
really is. It really is. So
Mhm.
somehow if we could spread some of this information, more than just our planned one, but to other throughout the city,
Yeah, even I'm just thinking about schools, having worked in schools for many years. Just having the schools aware and having posters or something out for the schools especially to advertise would be very helpful. Yeah.
Excuse me while I put my phone on silent so I don't have ESPN.
Here's another one.
It's like,
Swap the scroll for a stroll. I love that. Swap your scrolling for a stroll. I love that.
Yeah, so one of the things I was just thinking, maybe this is too much, is, well, you know how sometimes if you do like the anticipation of something happen, like a countdown to such and such,
Right.
is if we start posting on this day, a countdown at such and such a time, this many more days to the walk, and then the community, even though our focus would be riverfront, the community from wherever they're located could start at that time, walk to their local park. They could take photos of themselves at the parks and then we could post them. So everybody kind of start at the same time, like 10 o'clock on da 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 da. And then they walk to their respective parks. So it becomes more of a larger community kind of thing that folks could participate if they didn't want to just do riverfront,
I
need folks
love
to do
that.
But we could kind of get some momentum going, I guess, by doing, yeah.
Okay, I've got this.
By maybe doing like a
Great idea.
countdown, so it kept it in their, in their minds that it was coming up and so it's kind of we all start and do it at the same time, yeah. And stuff, and then post about it, so
Yeah.
everybody
That's-
can post about it in their own park that they visit. Doesn't have to be a
That's
riverfront.
great. You have to coordinate it. Let elementary schools know,
Yes.
work with the school district.
Public school
Yeah.
district would love that.
And they can do their own, just like we did
That's great.
from, what was it, this school last year we went to?
That was Washington Elementary.
Washington Elementary.
Livingston, yeah.
Yeah. And, Liberty before, I mean, there's so many great schools, even though they're cutting down on the number, which is, upsetting, but, that have neighborhood parks, some of them are just adjacent to their own building. But, so I'm sure that everybody in that school knows about that park,
Yeah,
but, a lot of them are like, Liberty or Washington, and that's a great idea.
Oh, on that note, that's a good question. There's a lot of conjecture going on about these school elementary, but actually the timeline is pretty fast, actually. Are we gonna be consulted on that by the school district? Because like McKinley School has a park next to it. There's all sorts of speculation out there with everyone. Will the school district?
well, we have not been consulted, I don't know, I guess if we would be, so I'm not aware of them
So they-
consulting with the city
For
about.
example, if they choose to close
Scenarios, yeah.
like if they choose to close these schools that have got the park next to it, like McKinley.
Yeah.
There's been a sharing of responsibilities. Is
Yeah.
that going to create a more of an imposition for us to do that?
Really, I guess, so some there is a sharing of responsibilities. I think we've talked about McKay and there's some other examples. McKinley, that's not the case, but I mean.
We own that part, we own
Yes, so it's not a sharing, it's just adjacent to
Yeah.
it, but nonetheless, yeah, I mean, the park would still remain open, but, I'm sure clearly the school district wouldn't necessarily want the public on their kind of property. My guess is that they were utilizing that. I mean, in similar locations, they fence things off. They've done things to where it adds some kind of separation and so forth. So my guess is something like that is if it was a McKinley, for example, that they probably would find a way to kind of secure the school area, but still, because they couldn't do anything, it's not their property with
Right.
regard to the park, but still, so folks could have access to the park if they wanted
And
to.
a lot
But
of-
I don't know, I'm not aware that there's been those conversations, but unless it was like, with somebody maybe higher up in the city than us,
Yeah.
but we've not been involved or aware of it.
A lot of the schools that have been closed have been turned into charter schools
Yeah,
too.
that,
Or they'll sell them and you might have church, something going on there.
yeah.
I think the school district has not gotten to the point, although the process is pretty quick, they've not gotten to the point of having the dialogue about what they're gonna specifically do with those properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far, the schools that have been closed have been schools, on the small schools like Fruitland and Hazel Green and, that was when they built Cesar Chavez School, and so they had a big, nice school for those kids, not that far away from their original school, which is worked out well, but I don't know what they're gonna do now.
I mean to say, we're gonna pay attention.
Yeah.
For example, Candelaria Elementary School it serves as the park for that neighborhood, let's be honest. We don't have a developed neighborhood park in the vicinity. That campus is open to the neighbors when class is not in session. And so always that we care, so we'll pay attention.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's good.
any other comments? All right, let's move on, and thank you for volunteering, Ingrid. If you did, I'm not sure. Our parks update, Rob.
Yes, so this is gonna be a little bit, my first half of what I'm presenting today is gonna be a repeat for Counselor Barney. On July 20th, today I'm giving an update on our Salem, our parks, which is the name of the project to update the city's park system plan. I think previously we called it Park for All, we changed the name, it's gonna be called Our Parks. We're getting really serious about it, it's something we're actively working on now. And then on July 20th, City Council had a work session, and at that work session, they were fire hosed with long-range planners from across the city talking about all the big activities that we're doing as a result of our Salem. And I'll back up for a second and talk about our Salem. Several years ago, the city made a major update to its comprehensive plan, the main guiding document of how the city is to grow per our vision. And that introduced some new goals for Parks and Recreation, but that's all it provided was the goals. It didn't provide any policies or any substance to enacting on those goals. That was all left for an update to this park system plan, because these, although they're separate documents, the city considers them all the same document, they're just different parts of it. So this main policy plan has been updated, and now it's time to update the other documents. I don't want to call them supporting documents because that's not correct. They're more important than supporting documents. They're topic-specific components of this main plan. And so while we're doing the park system update, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, we're also updating the city's transportation system plan. We're also updating the city's wastewater master plans, water master plan, and stormwater master plan. There's other things happening as well. So there's a lot going on. City Council got a full spectrum overview of everything. I'm only going to be talking to you about the parks update. I'm going to present the exact same slides I present to council just to get everyone up on the same level of what we're doing. And then I have a little bit more of an update about like what staff is actually up to right now. So just give you an update, keep you aware. At some point, it's all going to come to SPRAD, and you're going to have to provide guidance to us on some important topics through the process. So we just generally want to keep you updated and aware of what's going on. Any questions just from the get-go?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Our parks is, so just to ground us here, first thing I want to talk about at the top there is the current name, the official name in city code of this park system plan is the Comprehensive Park System Master Plan. That does not roll off the tongue very well. We are moving it away from the word master in our plan, so we're going to try to change the document name to something much simpler, and we're going to call it just the Comprehensive Park System Plan for now, but we'll have to officially change the name. That's a small detail, but that's what I'm going to start with. What we're doing is we're updating a document that was originally created in 1999, and then it was last really touched or updated in 2013. So lots happened since 2013. There's a lot of changes that can be made to this document to make it relevant for now and into the future. It is a strategic roadmap for investments over the next decade and beyond. So again, we got to update it. It's out of date. It's time to assess, to check in on it, and make sure that we're modernizing it, getting it ready for the next 10 years so we can have appropriate long-range planning in our park system. And we're charged with aligning it with to make sure we're grabbing community needs, like we're really listening. What are the community needs? We're planning for growth, and we're being pragmatic. So I think you could criticize our current plan. It's not what we call budget constrained. So people had ideas, we just threw them in the plan. We talked a little about how do we prioritize things, but there was no like direct connection. How is the city going to get this done? How are we financially going to make this work? And so I'm not gonna say that this plan will be financially constrained, but we'll be way more aware and pragmatic about the financial realities that the park system lives within. What is the plan? It's really important. It defines the parks classification system. So like, what is an urban park? What's a neighborhood park? What's a community park? What are our policies around those classifications? What does it mean to be a community park? It's all documented and defined in this. How the city delivers recreational services to its residents are defined in this. You know, do we provide skate parks? Do we provide playgrounds? At what amount? You know, where in the city? This is an opportunity to update those policies. We have today a park acreage planning goal for urban, neighborhood, and community parks that's very ambitious. We're supposed to have 7 acres for every 1,000 residents. We might want to revisit that and just have a reality check on it. I'm not gonna, you know, that's just an example of the kind of things that are in this plan as we continue to plan and purchase new parks. There's a recreational trail planning component to the plan. It has a trail system. And again, that goes right into everyday development in the city. If a developer comes in and they have property where our plan says we have a future need for a recreational trail, we obtain an easement from them through the process of them developing their site, and potentially, depending on the conditions, we actually make them build the trail. So we want to make sure that trail plan is relevant because we're acquiring easements, we're building little pieces. We want to make sure we're moving in the right direction as we do that. You know, we have this bond that was passed by voters in 2022, and it was the first time a bond was used to pay for park improvements at the city, you know, as far as I'm aware. And so we, in leading up to that bond, we had to provide information about, you know, what were the priorities for that bond money. This is an opportunity to have a whole community conversation about how we prioritize investments into our park system and to prioritize what improvements should occur. For instance, if there is a future bond initiative, the data in the document can help guide what parks get their sport courts repaired. You know, what projects are going to be suggested for that future bond. It could help a lot with that. Generally speaking, it's going to talk more about an overall capital investment strategy. How do we use our park SDCs, the funds that are paid by new development to expand our park system? What's the priority for that? And then I kind of already mentioned this, but really there's going to be a whole component about implementation and how to be practical and pragmatic. And I'm just going to go to my next slide then. We have some challenges we're trying to address, and I'm just going to walk through some of the bigger ones here. We have aging infrastructure and deferred maintenance, so we have some tired parks, and we gotta face that fact and talk about it and see what we're going to do. We have an obligation as a city under the Americans with Disability Act to reduce barriers to access in our parks. And we don't really have a good inventory of all those barriers and a really good systematic plan for how we're addressing them. So this is an opportunity to move in that, help us align with what the expectation is under the law. We have some gaps in asset and condition information, like what the city's facilities are. So like an asset being like a playground or a sport court. We have some data gaps. We have an asset database system. It's not a comprehensive database yet. So we can fill in missing data. This bottom one here comes right out of a performance audit that was recently conducted on park operations. It suggested that we need to really look at performance measures that look at the outcome of our park system. So just like saying like, look, we have this many pieces of playground equipment. Well, our playground equipment contributes to the community's well-being in X way. So we're just thinking about what do we really care about in our park system and how do we report progress and success or not? And again, so we're also an opportunity to build off of that recommendation from the performance audit. I'm sure it's come up here, scrap comes up all the time and it comes up in the community all the time, but the city has situations where we purchase a park property, we acquire park property with a new part of the city that's being developed. And it's 30 years later and we start developing it. No one likes that. I don't think there's any party stakeholder at the city that finds that particularly acceptable, so that we can have a conversation around that as well and then see, what are we going to do about that? There are different expectations around how we engage community members since certainly since 1999, but since 2013 as well. Our Salem process that resulted in the update to the main policy plan really focused on equity. Not just like equity that we gotta make sure we have resources available to everyone in the city in an equitable way, but that there's procedural equity. So that when we do a planning study like this, we're giving equal opportunity for everyone in the community to participate in it. And so that again, this is an opportunity to talk to people who don't normally engage with us in a meaningful way, to actually try to connect with them and not just rely on those who have the capacity to engage with us to come to us. So it's about doing better with engagement, getting a broader set of voices into the planning process. And then I'm gonna hit, we have some funding challenges. I think you all are very aware of our funding challenges. So that is something, again, that's even more of a need to update this plan to make sure we're being strategic. So as we enter this process, staff's bringing two kind of overarching objectives that are our objectives. One is an equitable, accessible, inclusive park system. So again, that's what we really generally want to focus on that. But we want to balance, or not balance, we want to be sustainable, resilient, and we want to maintain a park system. We want to be pragmatic. And so these are the two kind of objectives that are going to be overarching in our minds as we do this project. The project has been scoped into 4 phases. Each phase builds on the previous phase to move us from an understanding of what we have today to a really clear vision about what's tomorrow is going to be. And I want to really highlight this point. There's going to be community engagement in every phase. So right now we are starting on phase 1, which is inventory and assessment. And we will be having community conversations about what people's lived experience are, what their perception of the park system are. It's not just us going out and collecting data. That's really important. I'm having a slide about that. But people's opinions, their input, what they experience as their experience in our parks is also data that we're going to collect. And then we're going to have many more conversations with the community in very many different ways as the next few years unfold and we go through these phases.
Rob, would it be possible to develop an app that people could access, the public could access, and give feedback about their park when they're visiting, perhaps? Or maybe you can contribute to that, a survey, perhaps, that I'm hearing this is what I see.
And let me loop back to that when I kind of toward the end of my rambling I'm doing right now. I will kind of loop back to that. I also want to talk about data-driven planning. So here are some opportunities to bring more data into our work. Park and recreation inventories, asset condition and life cycle information, accessibility information. I've kind of talked about all these things already. Population and demographic change. The city has grown. It's who makes up the city has changed. Park visitation and usage patterns. That placer data I was talking to you about a few months ago is a new tool we have. Gives us a different perspective of the park system. There's different trends in recreation. In 2013, pickleball wasn't what it is today. And so it's not reflected in our plan at all, really. There's been a whole evolution of how we use technology and GIS to measure park need and to really look at equity in the park system. And it's gone so far since 1989. And so we have an opportunity to use those tools and to use visuals to really show the community what the park landscape looks like. And then I already mentioned the community input is also data, and it's very important. All right, so this is my last slide, and then I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what we're actually doing right now. But for council and SPRAB, a clear understanding of the needs and priorities, that's what we hope to get you. Policy aligned investment guidance and actionable implementation strategies, so things we can actually accomplish. For the community, we want to try to be as transparent and inclusive as we can. we want to create a shared vision for our whole community that's around the park system and how it's gonna evolve. And then we want to improve equity and accessibility in our park system, so we want to reduce those barriers. We want to make sure it's a park system for everybody. And then for city as an entity, like as a business entity, like as an enterprise organization, it's a better asset and data management information. We can make better data informed decisions, less people just guessing. It will improve our competitiveness and grant applications. So like when we prepare a grant application to the state, they ask us a lot of information to make sure we're doing good park planning. And it's hard to answer those questions really well when it's been 13 years since you've touched your park system plan. So it will help us get grant funds. And this is probably the last point, it's probably one of the most important ones. We have some financial issues, and our current plan doesn't really talk about partnerships. So what's the role of partnerships in our park system? What's the role of public-private partnerships in our park system? Is the city on the hook to do everything ourselves, or is there an opportunity for us to work with others to get the resources to our community? All right, so that's my slides from the work session, and then kind of where we are currently is, the Parks Planning team is a team of 2 staff members. It's a lot of work. We're not going to do this by ourselves. We're going to use some consultants who have to help us. But we also, learning from other big long-range planning projects the city has done, we're really skeptical about just hiring one consultant right now to do everything for us. So the city put out an RFP recently, a request for proposal, to establish what we call a consultant of record pool. So if you can think about it, we have created a pool of consulting firms that have contracts with us now, but we haven't assigned them no work yet. So we have contracts with them. They're available for us to use, and we may or may not use them. That's where we're at now. And so we have 5 consulting firms that we have contracts with. They provide services across 3 service categories. One is community engagement. 4 of the 5 provide community engagement services of some kind or another and are a resource for the city. The next category is assessment, like data assessment, like going out and assessing our park system. 4 of those are also in that category, although I'll tell you one of them stands out to me as someone who can really help us efficiently and effectively assess our park system. And then the last one is just broadly park planning, to really smart people to help us do a good job with this plan. And in that one, we have 3 who provide that service category. And those 3 firms are outstanding. I mean, they do this work professionally across the country. It is what they do. And so again, no work has been assigned to them yet. We're going to, what we're doing right now is we're crafting project assignments. We want competition amongst these consultants to make sure that we're getting a good deal and that we're getting the absolute best approach for the city. And so they will, although they have contracts with us already, they're going to have to compete for their actual assignments. So they're going to have to give us their best ideas, their fee proposals, and then we will pick them to give them thoughtful chunks of work at a time. We're going to be in control of the overall picture. And what we're trying to accomplish is to use the city's financial resources as effectively as possible. We don't want to just spend $500,000 on consultant fees and not sure what we got for, not be sure at the end what we received for that money. That's where we are now. The 2 project assignments that are going to be coming out first is actually getting out and assessing our assets, like our playgrounds and their conditions, just to simplify it, funding these playgrounds. And the other one is to get a really robust public engagement plan put together. And Al, I think the comment you raised would fit into that public engagement plan. We want a big picture plan to help us guide how we're going to engage with the community. And that's where I think ideas like crowdsourcing data will be particularly discussed.
Question about the inventory, because we mentioned a couple times now. Does that include, trees? As far as canopy, all that, or is that?
Currently it's just the built environment. However, the city does already have a tree inventory. It's not a comprehensive inventory. It's not every city to tree own. every tree the city owns, but it is very significant as an inventory. So it's actually an area we're doing really well on.
I mean, we talk about this often, that then it's confirmed the Emerald Ash Borer.
Yeah.
And we talk about that here periodically, but just for having, it just seems like there is more, we're seeing more pests in environmental issues with more insects or diseases and stuff like that, and it might be good to just have that. It is good to have that in case there's other impacts besides that come down over.
The tree inventory, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Or green infrastructure, just generally too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So and there's other topics. There's wetlands. There's special status plant species. There's all sorts of natural resource data out there. I want to be careful to commit that we're going to do it. I think if because there's only so much.
Yeah, if that was considered in the inventory, because I see it in that captured, potentially captured in that, that effort.
Mhm. I think that's a good point to make sure that we're using including as much as that as we can.
Are ponds included? Ponds or?
Like water bodies.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, actually, part of this is, we work a part of a broader city group, right? So Public Works just recently updated the official list of what streams are in the city. And so we're definitely using that data. But in terms of like open water bodies in parks, yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm not sure if we're gonna have we as parks are gonna have an authoritative data set, or if we're just gonna use a broader data set the city has as a whole. If that makes sense to you.
I just wondered if it was within the purview of this, the Parks Group.
That question was.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we have lakes in our parks, so yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
a component of the park system.
We're not gonna have to worry too much about water here until we get some rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments? Yeah, and it's just a side comment, if you, your neighborhood associations that you are a liaison to, I know from personally, in mine, there is one park that has a sports portion that absolutely needs a lot of work. And I would even say, go ahead and fix a tennis court and put some pickleball lines if you wish, but it needs a lot of work. Needs a lot of work, and so I think that's something we could do, is to bring those issues from our neighborhood associations that to the attention, although it looks like you're gonna be getting a good lead on a lot of that anyway. But
Yeah.
but at least we can be a proponent for it.
And you can certainly, we will update you as we design an actual database of how we're gonna collect the condition information, and when we collect it, we'll bring that data back to you in some form. So it'd be great if you guys could help us quality control it. If you're like, hey, wait, I don't understand why you say that park is this way. It's not how I would view it. I mean, that'd be good to have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. All right, anything else at all on this? Okay, Rob, you're up again.
Yeah, this one.
The Center Street Bridge seismic retrofit project.
Can I just find in my slides? There they are. I'm going to start with some presentation slides from ODOT, because this is ODOT's project. So I think I'm going to start by saying that really clearly. This is ODOT's project. I'm talking about the seismic retrofit of the Center Street Bridge across the Willamette River. So that the most important thing I'm presenting to you an update about a state transportation project. So I'm going to be focusing on park impacts, but I think it's important that the board is aware, because it's happening. That's the summary. Now I'm going to dive into it. Just for those who are not as aware, the main span of Highway 22, Center Street Bridge, is about to undergo a multi-year project to seismically retrofit it so it can survive, bigger earthquakes. It is what they call phase one of the project, and In phase one of the projects, they're going to be working on supports for the bridge that go actually over the water. And they'll be working on ramps on the Marion County side of the river. They will not be working on the ramp that gets you into West Salem. So that is why it's phase one. They only have enough money to work on this portion right now. And there will be a future phase two that they're going to start the planning for this year. But the construction that's going to be starting and taking the next few years is just for the turquoise colored sections here. You were talking about this because we have a park on both sides of the river, and this project is going to have some pretty big impacts to those parks. We've been working with ODOT for years to try to get a handle on these park impacts and mitigation strategies. But one thing, just to go at is these trees in the project area, the vast majority are going to be removed in the coming months, like within the next 6 months. Also, the north parking lot for Riverfront Park, a huge portion of that parking lot, a little over half of it is going to be essentially demolished and used as their staging area for construction. And then they will be rebuilding it when they're done. It means we're going to lose all the trees in that part of the parking lot as well. There's also going to be impacts to events. So this is, especially Riverfront, where it's an event park. We're taking up valuable parking. We're having some crazy construction for years. Oh, I say crazy. We're having some insignificant construction activities for years. And so there's all sorts of negotiated agreement that involves various activities about ODOT is giving us money to cover alternative parking locations. There's some modest amount of money for example, to maybe do a shuttle service for certain events, large events that would particularly be impacted by the limited parking. I think the one thing I want to say about that is ODOT is a little behind their initial start date for this project. I'll talk about schedule in a minute. We have not spent any of those funds yet. They are there to help get the park and its events through the next few years of construction.
Will there be any effort to replace the trees when the project is done from ODOT?
Every tree will be replanted by ODOT, and they have paid the city an agreed upon appraised value for every tree they're removing. So that's the two things they're doing. So they've given us money, the value of the trees, and they have they're committed to replanting all the trees. Now that's a little baby tree is not the same as a giant tree. But that's just the agreement we have.
Starts then, okay.
Yeah. So the big news is that they being this ODOT advertised the project for public bids last week. So the project is now out for contractors to put their prices in on. They will open bids here in a few months, or in a few weeks, I should say, and they will hopefully have a contract with a contractor. This is like a major bridge contractor, right? This is a significant contract. And they're hoping to have that contract in place and that contractor in notice to proceed by January 1st. So the contractor could start doing things as early as January. That's why I'm here, because you're gonna, things are gonna start happening. Oh, I went right over the additional impacts. I'm not going to talk about transportation impacts, traffic impacts, but there are going to be some transportation impacts, nighttime closures and stuff like that. So in 2027, the city has a water line that goes across the bridge. We also want that water line to be seismically resilient, so we're kind of piggybacking on their project to accomplish that. So in 2020, next year, they're going to be doing a lot of water line relocation work to get ready for the construction. They have to move utilities out of the way, including our own water system, so that they can do this equipment. But when it's all done, we'll have a better water line across the river. I'm not a utility planner, but that's crudely what they're doing. They're going to be constructing the work platforms from Wallace and Cofferdam. So that means after they cut these trees down, the majority of them, they're going to start building a temporary work structure across the river and building little dams around the footings so that they can dewater them and work on them. And so that's like a full-on structure they're going to be building temporarily in the river. And then the following year, that's when the impacts are gonna really dial up for Riverfront Park, and they'll be working on the east side bridge construction, generally this area. And they're gonna continue working in the water on that work platform. That's gonna take a long time to get that work done. The following year, they will continue the work on this side. And they'll complete that water line upgrade on the bridge. And in 2030, they will finish the pier retrofits and the east side work. So they're gonna finish kind of most of the work. And they're gonna remove the work bridges and they're gonna rebuild our parking lot. And then in 2031, they'll be finishing up with landscaping. So this is a long duration. It's gonna be around in the community for a long time.
So I'm assuming ODOT is coming to share this information with West Salem and the neighborhood association.
Yeah, I believe they presented this exact slide deck to the West Salem Neighborhood Association last week. I'm going to skip the next few slides because again, I'm not a transportation planner. You don't want to hear me.
Have them come and talk about
Yeah.
them in detail.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah.
Yes, this is all, for those who are newer members, this has all been through SPRAB.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and so it's time to talk about it again.
Can you go back to that map with the detour real quick?
Sure.
That one
Yeah,
right
and
there.
if you have a question, I can definitely get in
No, I
contact
just
with
wanna
them.
look at that.
There will be some very limited nighttime closures. So you can see the quantities here
Okay.
and the times. And then those times, the detours are pretty crazy.
They don't mention anything about Wheatland. So I would regard that as an alternative if we can't get.
I think there's rules about what they can sign as a detour.
Okay. Well, that's not for very big things, that's true.
Let's kind of talk about phase two. Again, this is the navy blue section here.
Jeepers, I don't think I'm gonna live that.
They're gonna start this year, they're gonna start looking at options to what they want to do there. And assume the city's gonna be very involved as well. It's an opportunity so I'm gonna be dangerous because I'm not ODOT, I'm not a transportation planner, but they knew they could retrofit this section. They're not sure this is worth retrofitting. This might be something where they need to build something new. And if you build something new, it's a chance to change what it is, right? And so that's why they're doing this study.
That blue section is built on landfill that was placed there when that was built to replace Edgewater as the main thoroughfare.
Yeah.
You can go along the river there and see car bodies and frames and all kinds of junk exposed now on the bank as the river has eroded it away. I don't know if that would be appropriate substructure to put another freeway or something on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I will tell you that the footings they're putting for this bank, this is where the two structures come together, are 100 feet deep.
Well, there's this article in the New Yorker, they published it about, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe not that long ago. It's called The Great Pacific Earthquake, and it was about what's gonna happen.
The big one.
And they talked about how the bridges would just pancake because they didn't have these, things. They said this is what would happen. They kind of compared it to the big earthquake they had in 1700, but they said it's gonna happen. And they said it will happen. And so that was one part of the article that I could visualize in my mind, all our bridges kind of going down.
That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, so there you go.
Okay, well, that ends my impersonation of a transportation planner. Is there any questions on the project?
When will City Hall be done?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. We can definitely follow up with an answer. I know who to ask.
Is she right there?
Hi there. I think the projection is for us to move back in January or February. So it's coming up
Of next year?
this coming year. Yeah. Or this
Okay.
coming winter.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All righty, any other questions? Okay. Alan?
I don't know, it's not relevant to the same subjects there. Can I change the subject to other parts?
I would wait for item 6.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right, then it is time for our illustrious council member, Varney, you give her report.
Well, I don't actually have a report. As you all know, there's been a lot of things going on with city council in the last month, and there's always stuff going on. You did have a number of questions about different things with the construction, et cetera. I mean, I'd like to, in just a minute, open it up to some questions. Thanks, Rob, for talking about our parks. The presentation at council was great, and I'm glad you brought it here to share because it had so much great information about how we're taking a really efficient and data-driven approach to revising our comprehensive plan for our parks. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Oh, there was a question about the lakes or rivers or whatever. And I think many of you are familiar with, and we've gotten updates here about the riparian and stream inventory that occurred that identified the, oh my goodness, what did we have here? I'm trying to remember the 137 wetlands and the 109 miles of streams and 83 miles of those being fish-bearing streams, and identified the riparian corridors. And so I'm assuming, I mean, obviously, since it's within the city, that our parks were included in that. So that inventory will probably likely be included as we look at the comprehensive parks master plan, or whatever it's called, the our parks now, right? One thing I wanted to mention that you may have heard about, and it's been in the news quite a bit lately and coming up, is in regards to Wallace Marine Park and the city's recent efforts to increase, how do I explain this? The concluding of camping in Wallace Marine Park. This is something with Wallace Marine that we started back in 2022 with the homeless services team, and started working on small segments of Wallace Marine Park, where the homeless services team and the clean team went, posted notices, went in, and the homeless services team connects, makes really good connections and relationships with individuals. And when they're ready to go into services, the homeless services team helps connect them to those services and housing and shelter. And so as that program has been very successful in Wallace, and now we have the homeless services team and Reach, et cetera, that the city council has provided funding for this fiscal year, to assist with connecting folks downtown and in northeast with services. And that directly impacts our residents in Wallace Marine Park, because so many of them come across the bridge into the downtown area for services. So I just wanted to mention that there has been more intense activity in Wallace Marine Park with a focus on moving north up into the natural area, which has not been addressed for years. And this came up, I'm thinking last winter, when we were talking about the path in Wallace and developing a plan for the natural area in Wallace Marine Park. I do have questions, and I'm hoping to maybe get an update from Rob or someone about what we're doing with the Wallace Marine natural area as these other projects are going on to conclude camping, because we haven't been up doing these activities up in the north area of the park for a long time. And I was under the assumption last winter that we were going to be putting a plan together for kind of what we wanted to do with that area of the park before we went in there and started moving people out. So I guess I'm just looking for more information, if that makes sense, and just kind of opening that up for discussion.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I've had to provide an update on the Wallace natural area planning effort. Project's moving slower than maybe we want it to. We have hired a consultant. The consultant has begun their site assessment work. It's a challenging project. This spring, we did do field work. The consultants completed field work that included a wetland delineation and some other field work. The natural area is heavily canopied, which provides its own challenge for collecting geospatial data like GIS data, GPS data. But then you add in some other social impacts that occur, especially in that north part of the site, and it's really challenging to get the consultants out there to collect the data. So that in of itself was quite a undertaking, but it happened. And now our current what's slowing us down right now is that to do the hydraulic analysis of the river and its impact in terms of flooding in the park, so that we can really confidently talk about what we can do when we engage with the community and other stakeholders. We need to have some really critical FEMA data that is in FEMA's possession, the federal agency. And we've requested that data. And we are sitting around waiting for the data to come in. It's supposed to take 2 weeks to get that kind of data from the federal government, and it has been months. So we're just kind of waiting for it to come in. We're expecting to get it very soon. We'll complete our existing conditions assessment work, and we'll begin planning our first round of community engagement, which currently we're hoping to do this fall.
Okay, I have a question. That cement, that path you want to put in, the cement or the,
The paving of a path.
is
Yes.
that part of this?
Yes, we'll be specifically having a conversation around should we be paving a path and what the alignment would be as part of the overall discussion of the management of the natural area.
Yeah, and I walk that area.
Mhm.
And I love that idea of a path, actually. I'm so glad I went out there because I was kind of negative about it.
Yeah.
But actually, once I got out there, I thought, actually, this is a great idea. I mean, I think it would be a really good improvement, but.
We want to speak confidently about what the opportunities and constraints are when we go out. And so that we're just taking time because we want to be really confident that we know the landscape and what we're dealing with. So it is in play. It is an active project. It's moving a little painfully slow at the moment.
Well, thank you for that update. I appreciate it with everything else that's going on, and I know coordinating efforts with everything. Just wanted to mention that. I really don't have anything else to report, but I'm here to answer whatever questions the board members may have.
Any questions? Okay. All right, thank you very, very much. And
Thank
we always appreciate you being here
you.
with us. Okay. Next, we have board member updates. And again, I'm going to start because I'm the chair. I just want to give a big shout out to the recreation portion of this committee that we don't spend a lot of time on. There are two big events in the last month, the Ironman, which was very successful, I understand, and also the US softball national championship at Wallace Marine. And I spend a lot of time out there because I have a grandniece that came from Thousand Oaks, California to play in that. And I talked a lot with Billy, and they do an incredible job. They really do. The facility is in great shape. I went around and I tried to talk to parents from as many different teams that were there as I could. And a lot of those teams had been spending the whole summer going to tournaments, so they had a lot they could compare our facilities with others. And every one of them said that this is the best facilities that they had played in the entire time. And talking with Billy, he said that he estimated that tournament alone would bring about $4 million to the local economy. Okay.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
Yeah. And I said, well, how are you doing? Because we have to pay for all the umpires, ground crew, lots of this. He says, we are hoping they get a certain percentage of from all the vendors, and they were hoping to break even. But I think that's fine as long as we have $4 million to the local economy. Now, I don't know what the Ironman did, but I would imagine it was at least the same. So big shout out to everybody involved with those two events, and I certainly hope that we can continue to bring those events here. Okay, Alan.
I had three little items and a question. First of all, I was confronted by a resident in the south area who was asking me about Fairmont Park and the natural area adjacent to it. There are a lot of social trails going from the maintained area of the park through this natural forested area down to River Road. It's a steep hill, it's heavily forested, it's thickly covered with ivy, and there's quite a few footpaths through it. This lady was quite concerned about the houses near that area, particularly along the top of it, and thought, why doesn't the city mow that area so that there's not such a fire danger? Well, this is a very natural area. It's steep, it's rugged, it's covered with invasive ivy, mostly, but a lot of other vegetation. I don't think we can do anything that would make that better and in a way that is affordable. It's just a natural area adjacent to what is mowed and what is kept up. And I think it's city property, but I couldn't give her an answer to satisfy her about what can be done to mitigate fire risk to the houses adjacent to it. Other than they should be vigilant, and they can maintain their own fire lines, I suppose, but I thought I'd put it out there and see if there's anything that I could tell her better than what I've already said. And so that's one item. I am aware, and I know that you folks are too, that the Emerald Ash Borer is coming to Salem, and that now all of Salem is at risk. It was identified in South Salem. I am almost sure I saw one a year ago in South Salem also, but I wasn't positive, so I didn't gather the item, so I'm not sure. But I'm not surprised to hear that it appeared there. I'd like to know if there's any other ramifications that we should be aware of now that it's identified as locally as it is. The third item came from some citizens on the street. There's been a rash of youth on e-bikes that have created a concern for quite a few people in several neighborhoods. The e-bikes of concern are those that resemble e-motos or motorbikes that are not with pedals. They are just basically an electric motorcycle. And those are not legal on the streets. I don't even think there's provision for them to be licensed. And the kids that I have talked to that are riding these things are frustrated because they're getting stopped. And sometimes their bikes are taken and your parents have to be involved, recover it, and it's a real hassle. And yet they have no place to ride them. They're not legal to ride on the streets, and the kids aren't licensed anyway. So it's a problem about having a place to use a recreational item that is becoming increasingly popular and accessible to a lot of young folks, but they have no place to legally use it other than somebody's private lot. And one of the boys that was in a group of 10 that I was speaking with said, my dad has 3 acres. So I was telling them, talk to this guy and his dad. Make friends with him. He's your best buddy. So I don't know if we have a solution for this concern. And I doubt if we're liable to be able to create a e-bike park like we've done with the roller skate, the Deer Park, which is just awesomely wonderful. But I think it would be nice if we could cultivate a private enterprise that would be willing to take out the liability insurance to cover the risk of putting on a course for these e-bike riders. I don't know the solution. I think it's a problem out there though.
I'd like to follow up on that because my daughter, a friend of hers took the 2 little girls to the Morningside Park, and there were 2 little boys on e-bikes who were riding around right through the middle of the park, terrorizing the 2 little girls, and the boy's mother was watching. Now, my question is, do we have any regulations as to use of e-bikes in parks, particularly smaller parks like that? I mean, I don't like Memento either, but the smaller parks where they're going into the playground area, that just
Off-
doesn't
off
sound like it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to consider something, there are some things that are forbidden in the parks, maybe that needed to be added.
And we need to be careful because we're talking about a particular class and category of e-bikes. It's not all e-bikes that are problematic, but I
Well-
think they call e-motos.
We might take issue with that, but some are more problematic than others by far.
Definitely.
Okay,
There has been, and noticeably so, some more signage in Minto Brown that is helped and blind curves, 10 miles an hour, and cautionary signs. I think that that's good and that's helpful. We might want to do consider something about signage in parks about e-motos and off trail
Bikes not permitted in the playground area itself where the equipment.
or on paths. only.
Even paths, they're
dangerous. I know.
you know, yeah.
So we can look at that and we can certainly look at signage. So, I mean, e-bikes, the last time that the parks and open spaces regulations were updated, they're in draft form, but we need to kind of revisit them, was 2005. So kind of similar to what Rob is talking about in the parks plan, is it's been a long time since those were updated. And so there's lots of things that are in there that are no longer applicable. There's a lot of things that are missing, and bikes were not even on the radar at the time those
Yeah.
rules were done. So there's really nothing in them currently that addresses them one way or the other. So because of concerns that have been expressed by the public, especially at Minto, there was a significant amount of concerns where it was kind of combined with the walking paths, is we did try to address by putting some signage up, putting some markings on the paths, putting some curb signs up, things to let folks know, and some mileage things. So about this point in time, we can put some signage up, we can do those things, but there's nothing specific in the language in the parks rules and regs that addresses that. But it is in the draft form. We have referenced it, but we may, those continue to develop too. Even the e-bikes, right, are not just general in nature, and so we may have to make some more specificity as to which type of e-bikes and stuff. Maybe there's different layers. So that's a work in progress to specifically identify those in that document, but it's in draft and we can change, but we can put, certainly signage up for things where where folks are always doing nefarious activities that they should not be doing.
Yeah, and I think I may add that whatever our regulations have to fit in a framework, which is state law.
Yeah.
So some of the things that have been talked about, frankly, don't line up with state law. So like a 10-year-old riding the vehicle you described without pedals
Right.
doesn't seem consistent with what my understanding what state
Right.
law is.
Yep.
Right.
Well, it's all only on private property.
all right.
I have another just thought that came to mind. A year ago, we concluded, members of the board had projects that they worked through about a year, maybe a little more. Maybe just remember two topics. The one I kind of at least consulted with Debbie a little bit was the city electrical equipment potential transition, and then there was a transportation to the parks. One, I believe, was another topic. I forget the others, but I think since the conclusion of that, I'm not sure if anything has come of that, or if there's follow-up to that, or I know a lot of work was put in there by board members, so just curious to see what.
So we continue to monitor that. We did have in the budget this year, actually, kind of our first, for parks anyway, electric vehicle truck. Unfortunately, it got cut. So, just things. So we'll look at that potentially again next year to see, as we're replacing vehicles, if we have an opportunity again to kind of put that in with regard to the fleet. We did though, however, in our capital outlay in the budget this year relative to a mower, an electric mower. So that's kind of the first step with regard to, for something of that significant in size that we have in the budget. So it's baby steps for sure, with regard to kind of full electric kinds of things like that. But we are making progress as we can. We're attempting to do those things.
I guess, I think it was just a handful of us here now that we're here. Part of
Yeah.
for the new board members, maybe this is news, or you know, to what that project was all about. There was a lot that went into it. I think the
Yeah.
developers really doing a lot of work. Separate from that, as far as autonomous mowers too, there's a lot of advancements in that technology right now that may
Yeah.
be worth looking into, especially at the scale of some of these parks in these areas. On that as a option, if that's something that the city is considering. I'm sure somebody on operations is aware of that and maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, it is something we are, I mean, it may not seem, but we are actively trying
Yeah.
to address and then to do that. I mean, just for us, just, you know, either capital outlay with regard to equipment or vehicles as well as replacement is limited funding in the budget. At most that we've spent, and we don't even have that this year, unfortunately, has been like $300,000 a year. And $300,000 is pretty nominal if you really look at, especially the last few years' pricing with regard to equipment. So it's really significantly gone up since, quite honestly, since COVID. And it's not significantly come down. And so it doesn't get you very far with regard to making as big as inroads as we would like. But we continue to evaluate and look for opportunities. So hopefully at some point, you know, we'll be able to do more than just this individual kind of piecemeal kinds of things that have a little bit more significance, but it's something we're actively attempting to do.
Scares.
Just really on the transportation recommendations, so two things to stand up in mind where the recommendations are directly in play. When we're doing these playground projects, we have a lot of playground projects right now. So there was a thought, you know, that you're inviting a whole family or multiple families, there may be a lot of bicycles. And so that having 2 bike racks is maybe not helpful, because that's not, I mean, so we are thinking about that, experimenting and adding extra bike racks in our playground projects currently. That's a small thing. Probably more significant than that, maybe a little bit more significant than that. We don't build brand new parking lots very often, but with the Fairview project, we will be. And so we'll be exploring closely the concept of EV ready as a parking lot. So we won't necessarily put in EV charging, but we'll, where we lay some asphalt down, we're gonna make sure conduits are in and think that, you know, logical components are in to make it realistic to have that if the opportunity arises in the future, have EV charging at that part.
And that stemmed from that.
That's guiding those decisions, otherwise.
That's all I really wanted to like.
Okay. Oh, good. All right, any other comments from board members? All righty, well,
Oh, Marilyn.
go ahead.
I will have to address part of this after the meeting, but the topic of ivy on trees and whether if you live right by a tree that's on city property and you see this ivy, is it a violation of the ordinance, in your opinion, to cut it so that it doesn't grow?
It's a really.
I reviewed the ordinances.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure from reading whether ivy, because it's not really clearly addressed. And I had this situation in Nelson Park. So I will be talking to you more afterwards, but it's,
Very good.
I'm just wondering, has this come up?
There to tackle it.
I think you can cut ivy wherever you see it, it's invasive.
It
It's
is.
not indigenous. And in fact, there are volunteer crews that go out to do that.
Okay, well, I have seen them at Minto.
Yeah, there's used to be called the No Ivy Coalition. They have a new name now. Then they did it for several years in various parks and different aspects that the group kind of disbanded. Some folks aged out, some folks moved. It kind of, you know, they lost their enthusiasm, quite honestly, because they had done it for so many years, right? It's but just within the last year, there's a new kind of invigorated group who's kind of starting that up again. They've been doing some projects working with our Parks Volunteer Coordinator, Amanda Sitter, on a few times now on doing projects in the parks relative to ivy poles and so forth. And so it is kind of getting revitalized. It's becoming a something where volunteers are interested in participating, again. So, yeah. And they even, I can't remember what it was now, but, they came up with a little slogan motto that for themselves, and
No
I'm now,
Ivy League, I think it's.
Huh?
No Ivy League.
yeah, but no, but they have like a little motto kind of thing
Yeah.
that they came up with, that
Cute.
kind of, yeah, it was, yeah. No Ivy left behind, I don't know if that's it, but something like,
I-
oh no, divine and conquer, divine and
Divine.
conquer, divine and conquer. Yeah. It took me a minute, yeah, but anyway,
I don't
so.
suppose they do blackberry vines.
Yeah. Probably not.
I think it's part of that whatever volunteerism is happening, that it's official volunteerism.
Right.
That we're aware of,
Right.
it's under our guidance,
Right.
and then those kind of issue, the legality issue is kind of mute because you're working with us as managers.
But if a person is wandering through the park and they see a tree covered with ivy, there's no problem if they choose to take that ivy off, is there?
Well, we would have, yes, concern, to
Don't
be
want-
honest,
we would
of a
encourage them.
random person, because there's also a right way to do it, right? There's a right way and things to do, and so we would not encourage that folks just take that upon themselves to do it without some consultation. One, that we know it's happening in the park, our staff, and that two, that they're doing it correctly.
And in those environments, you're often coming across poison oak.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah, that's true. And we're very, I think there's no lack of willingness on our path to go do a consultation to say, hey, and by the way, that's poison oak.
It's a little bit more than you think. I see it all the time.
Good to know, thank you.
All right, anything else from anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay, let's move on to Park and Recreation Division report, verbal.
Yeah, we're real busy, so I didn't have a chance to put a written report together, so I'm gonna give a couple updates real quick, and then I don't know if Jenna has anything, but we now have 4 active construction projects in the park system. We have Riverfront, we have McKay, Bailey Ridge is, the contractor is gonna start grading operations any day now, so probably tomorrow. And then Stella Street Park, if you remember, that was maybe a meeting tour ago, that was the newer park at the former mushroom factory production farm.
Oh.
So we'll be doing some, that's the most minor of all the projects, but we'll be doing some grading there to remove some asphalt and rock, just to really try to save those cluster of oak trees, because they're sitting in standing water over winter right now. And so we've that work is about to start any day now. We've imported, this is kind of, we've imported, it saved the city some money, but we imported a soil that we were not gonna use at McKay to Stella Street. So it's not good enough to be the topsoil on our brand new soccer fields, but it's certainly good soil. And so that saved the city a chunk of money. So that's a positive thing.
Very good that park is getting developed with all of those new housing around it. It's,
The Royal Oak.
it should be a real
You know,
priority.
this is, we call it Stella Street Park, but it's one of our newest acquisitions. I want to caution, so we're gonna make it look more like a park. It's gonna be more like park-like environment, but we're not like putting in any
It's the
amenities.
one on State Street,
Um,
right across
yeah.
from the state.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's on Court
It's on
Road.
Cordon.
Yeah, no, but was it called Royal Oaks? What? No.
This is an existing.
It's in- yeah.
I'm actually gonna talk about Royal Oaks in just a
No,
second.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
This was across from Terra Gardens.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So what's the name of Stella Street?
it's the main frontage is Stella Road, so,
Yeah.
or Stella
Yeah.
Street, so we call
Yeah.
it Stella
Yeah.
Street Park.
It's,
It would be,
Temporary.
But it's not.
that's
yeah,
a
it's not
temporary
permanent.
name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's temporary. It's a way to refer to it.
Subject to,
relevant to that name, what's the plan for getting it named, and how can we suggest an indigenous name for it to be used?
So we haven't taken up a naming of that park yet. I think that's a future opportunity. I know that's something maybe the board wants to focus on. But we have some other, so that's this summer, if that's what we're doing right now. Those are active construction projects, but then we're also in design on 4 neighborhood projects for next year. So we have playground reconstruction, so similar to what we did at Morningside. At Royal Oaks Park, which is really close by, it's just up in the same neighborhood association, just a little to the north. And Aldrich Park, which is really close to the office building here. And so we're in design on those projects. We've done some initial community engagement with the neighborhoods, and we've gotten some ideas for their priorities for the playground equipment. We just this week asked playground manufacturers to send us proposals, so we're selecting play equipment, and those projects are moving forward. And then we have, in Northeast Salem, we have 2 neighborhood park development projects that we're working towards. So that's Brown Road Park, which is in the NOLA Neighborhood Association. And that's just, we're gonna try to essentially create the vast majority of that neighborhood park in the construction phase, including a playground, half basketball court, and trail system, other improvements as well. And then we have Fisher Road Park, which is at the north end of Fisher Road. And that one, which is also has we hope to receive a grant for that park. We are in design, assuming we will receive that grant. And so that's these projects are all between $1 and $2 million each, so that they will create a substantial component of these neighborhood parks to start serving the residents. And then we're beginning work on Fairview Park, which we talked about in the tour, so that we should have a contract with the interpretive planning and content development team this week. And so now we have all the people are there, and they've all started to work as a team to help us design the various aspects of that project. And I'll just maybe finally mention the city submitted a grant application for Northgate Park a few months ago. The idea there being, we know we have bond money to add restrooms to that park in a couple of years. We can leverage that money potentially as match to get a state grant to do more at that park. Our grant application has gone through technical review, and it's clear technical review, so that's just the first step in the review process. So now we're gonna move into the next stage, which is an actual the competitive reviews, like a state committee that reviews grant applications is going to review all the grant applications and grade them based on a rubric of their funding priorities. And so we'll find out in a few months how we stand, if we're going to get that grant or not.
Any questions? All right.
So I just wanted to update on a couple of projects that are either associated with Riverfront or Riverfront adjacent. So the first is the Peter Courtney Bridge. So some of you may have noticed last week we added some additional lighting to the upper arch portion of the bridge. That, just so that you know, in case there are questions, is that was predicated on continual vandalism of the lower rail lighting. To be honest, since the bridge has been built, it has been an ongoing issue with regarding to vandalism and criminal activity. And so just in the last 3 years, we spent almost $60,000 continually repairing that lighting. And so we decided it was time to take a different approach on still making sure the bridge is illuminated, but not making it so vandal easy, I guess, and kind of being more efficient with our resources. So we did add additional some photocell sensor lights that are up at the top in addition to the arch lights. So again, it does provide security and illumination down below. That was at a cost of about $15,000 to us. So in the long run, that will be good. They're LED lights. One facet was not additional cost, was that they could be color changing lights. We similarly have color changing lights on Union Street Bridge. We have some at the Jerry Frank Amphitheater. So we went ahead and put the color changing lights on there. Some folks said, but there was not additional cost necessarily to do that. That just happened to be a thing. So I just wanted to apprise, because some folks have kind of become aware of that. And then it wasn't just kind of a vanity project. There was a reason behind why we did that, that project. The second project that you'll see down at Riverfront that ties into kind of additional vandalism and criminal activity issues that we're trying to address is at Riverfront Park, the south parking lot. So we continue to have folks over the last couple plus years who there's been gun activity down there in that parking lot and around by the carousel and the amphitheater. Infrequently, there has been parking lot damage. It's consistent with folks coming in continually doing donuts and, you know, or going on the turf or doing things that tear that up. So all of those are have been problematic for SPD. Have been problematic for parks with regard to the labor and cost to continually kind of address those kinds of things. And so We had some conversation with SPD over the last few months on how we could collaboratively try to address that issue. They were spending more and more time in the evenings and early morning hours. We're having break-ins down there in the amphitheater and folks and theft and all those kinds of things as well. So how we could be maybe a little more proactive to assist them in their process as well as assist parks operations. So what we've come up with, and you'll be seeing that in just in the most recent future, will be we're adding a gate at the south parking lot that will be closed every night. SPD is extremely supportive and anxious for us to get that in. So we're just about there to start that installation process. Now, we do recognize, just so folks know, folks will have a way, we will put information up. So basically, if someone gets stuck behind there, here's the hours when the gate's gonna close. Here's how that process will work. If they get stuck down there, they'll have to call non-emergency, and it gives SPD an opportunity to have conversation with them about them being in the park after hours when they're not necessarily supposed to be there. But there will be a way we can override the system if there's an event that's going on that lasts longer than dusk or lasts longer than a certain time, that folks still will have the ability to leave the park and not be impacted and locked in there. So there's some nuances in there that we're working with SPD on and so forth. But I just wanted to apprise you because that's different than what you see down in the parking lot currently. So again, that will be happening, and then the reasons why that's happening. So that's a collaborative project with SPD.
Were some of those parking overnight?
Yes.
Will this be dawn to dusk or something like that?
So
Dusk to
the
dawn.
norm will be dusk to dawn, that will be closed. But again, we have the ability, if we need to, keep it
Sure.
over longer than that as well. And SPD will have the ability as well to access if they need to.
Okay.
Oh, and then the last thing, sorry, just really quick, because earlier it was mentioned about the spiff. So the beginning of September is the time that I send out a reminder to the neighborhood associations that process is going to be starting. Send them out their packets to kind of share with them the timeline, right, of when they need to submit their letters of intent, when they need to submit their final applications. Once those letters of intent, we reviewed those and offered the approval to kind of move those forward in the process. And when the awards will be, so you'll all be seeing that information. You'll have those updated timelines to share with the neighborhood associations as you do your meet and greets with them. But I just wanted to let you know that I'll be sending that out the first part of September, reminding them of that process starting. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Okay. Any questions from anybody to anybody? All right, the only other information report was written that you got in your packet from the Mission Street Park Conservatory, which I think is a wonderful organization. They do a great job. They really do. I'm really impressed with them. Okay, any comments on that? All right, new business. Anybody have proposed any new business? Which will probably be next month's business. Okay, not hearing any. Then we are, one last comment. This is, I think, the first time that we've had a full board at a meeting. And that I can remember. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. We didn't have to worry about, do we have a quorum? Do we have a quorum? So thank you very much, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.